Hey, who's all in the chat right now? We're going to get going right here and start on some chapter 7, I believe. Might do one thing to start, but if you're in the chat, I sent out big announcements. I know it was a tiny bit late. We were doing some really good office hours, getting people ready for the Kaggle. So I might do a quick introduction to what is the Kaggle here. I bet you a lot of my 320 students are wondering, what in the world is the Kaggle? So let's mention that. Let's go over here and look at the Kaggle. Hey, Kaya, good to see you there. Excellent. You got questions, let me know. I'm going to go here to the code. That's the wrong competition. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Let me bring this up here on the screen. Okay. Let me download the files. We're going to show a little bit about this right here and then do some 201, I believe. If you're in the chat, feel free to say hi. Let's go over here and take a look at this. Wrong button. Okay, so this is for 320. Then we're going to do some 201 right after. We're going to talk about, okay, I got it, using cookies. Cool. We're going to talk about how to do this Kaggle right here and what does this Kaggle mean. So with this Kaggle, what you're looking at, let me put the timestamp in it. 144 BAS 320 Kaggle Competition. Okay, so what you see right here is a Kaggle competition. And with it, I've got some files here for people to download. You want to go to download all on the files. Now I'm going to go ahead and open these files up. Just wait 1 second right here. We're going to open these files up on the computer. And with the files, you should have 2 files right here. You're going to see that the 2 files are submissions 0 and train data set. Now let's take a look at what these files are. 1 second here as I open up the files. Opening up the files over there. And here we go. Let me bring them over to the main screen. Okay, 2 files you'll see in 1 second right here. So this is the data right here that you're making predictions on. If you notice right here, we have the difference column, which is what you are predicting the difference in the series over time. The extra right here is a month variable, and the day is the day you're making predictions on. Now, if you notice, if you go way down towards the end of the file, it ends on day 2028. So this is the end of the series right here. If you go back now, this is the data you're using to make predictions, i.e. training a model. And then if you go over here to the submission 0 file, you notice right here, it has the days that go beyond 228. So it goes all the way to 2077, which is going to be the 49 days that come after. In addition, what I want to point out is you are filling out these values. Now I would copy paste them in, but you can just put in whatever values you want. These are not, don't put in these values. But you can even submit this file right now and see how you do. The thing is, when people make submissions to the Kaggle, it has to have this exact format. It has to have day with the right day numbers, and it has to have difference, and it can't have any sort of like difference or difference. It has to be verbatim. So a really good way is if you make your predictions, you just store them and insert them in here. Now, if you start this on the night it's due, it could be problems. You could run into an issue. You want to come by office hours if you're having issues. Some people are getting this done in 10, 15 minutes. It's no big deal. But if you run into problems, it could be issues. So what you need to do is you need to load in this data into R. And when you load this data into R, the only required thing for you to do to make a decent grade is to make a linear model. Think about this. You have day as the X variable, and then you have difference as the Y variable. So that is all you really have to do. You have to make predictions, store those predictions, which a lot of times we have these answers of how to do this in the notes, and we can talk through it, and you can chat GPT it. But you also want to start out small, because the required thing for you to do is, hey, Jake, good to see you there. The required thing for you to do is to make a linear model and make predictions with a linear model. That's all you really have to do to make a decent grade. Now, the grades that go beyond are harder, but you can make an A by just making a model and making the predictions, storing the predictions, then uploading the predictions. Who wants to do some chapter 7? Anyone want to do chapter 7? Let's do some chapter 7. Is that what people are here for? People are here for some chapter 7? Got my Pearson loaded up in the background. Yes. Should we do the full homework? We can do the whole entire homework. Whole entire homework. I want to do that little bit right there. My hair is getting so long. This is getting in my face. I have long hair. I'll deal with it. So everyone's like, gray hair to your shoulders again. I'm like, it takes so long. And then you get used to it and then you don't want to cut it. It takes so long. Wish you could just like wake up and have long hair. I think you'd be like, I don't want long hair anymore. You just like cut it in the next day. Just like grow it back out in a week. If the long hair took like a month to grow, it'd be worth it, but it's so long. And then you gotta go through awkward phases when it's like there and you're like trying to push it back. You go through awkward phases. It's like medium length hair is where it's at for me. That's my choice. Okay. We have the assignment loaded up. 603, Stat 201, and Chapter 7, homework. Facts I got to get a cut this week. Nice. Keep it up. Keep it looking good. Like it. Maybe I'll do it too. Maybe I will too. Okay, we're talking about linear models here for Chapter 7. So in this, they asked some theoretical questions for Chapter 7. Some of the residuals from a linear least squares linear model will be positive and some will be negative. Now here's the thing that's technically false. They're going to say true. What are they talking about least squares model? Well, they're talking about if you put a line through data and you have points. The idea of least squares, Ruton, good to see you there. And this actually relates to your class. This is a residual, and some are positive because they're above the line, and some are negative because they're below the line. So when it said least squares, what they're actually talking about is you can take these residuals and turn them into squares, and that's what a least squares model is. It makes the smallest sum of the squares. Like we're trying to minimize the sum of the squares. The reason we square the residuals is because since some are positive and some are negative, if you just add up the residuals, you get 0, which is a fun fact that's probably going to be on the test. So the sum of the residuals is 0, but when you square the residuals, you get a positive sum of the squares, like how much squared value there is. Like literally, if you turn this into squares, like if that's 3 below, it's 9. If that's 2 below, it's 4. If that's 3 above, then it's 9 also. If that's 3 above, then it's 9 also. And if that's 2 below, and that's almost perfect on like the residuals adding up to 0 because that's 6 above, and I guess we would have done perfectly if we just said that this is 1 below. So actually, we have made a valid model. If this is 1 below, then it only has one sum of square. So that'd be negative. Like, check it out. This is negative 2 below. This is negative 3 below. This is positive 3 above, positive 3 above. And this is negative 1 below, as in this point here, this point here, this point here, this point here, this point there. And the line goes through the center of the data. That's actually one of the best. I've probably been teaching this class a little too long, it seems. But that is what we mean by the least squares model. And this is a fact. The reason it can be considered false is if all the residuals are 0, which means you have a perfect model where all the points are on the line. So it is true. There's a very odd occurrence when you get all 0 residuals. Not odd, but worth mentioning. Least squares models means that the sum of the squares of the residuals are minimized. Is that what it means, true or false? Does anyone want to say in the chat? Does it mean that some of the squares of the residuals are minimized? Is that what I said over here? That some, that S-O-M-E, they are so mean on this question. Did I say some of these are minimized? They're so mean. This is a mean person who wrote this. Is that what it means? That's some of that? No, it's false. What we're doing is the sum of the squares. Not some of them are minimized, but the sum of the squares, as in if you add these all up, is minimized. So the sum of the square of the residuals are minimized. So it means that the sum of the square of the residuals are minimized. It doesn't mean that some of them are minimized. Like we minimize that one. No, we minimize the sum of the squares. We write y hat to denote the predicted value and y to denote the observed. That is a true fact. Someone just like, they tuned out when I did that. It's because these are the values of y, and the line has y hat. So predictions come from the line, and that would be a y hat prediction. And the actual values of truth are the values of y, where the dots are. The residual is going to be their what? Think of a D word. The residual is going to be the what between these values. The residual, which is noted as E, is the what between those values. The residual, which is noted as E, is the what between the difference, the distance. Nice job, Jake, right there. More points. So residual equals actual minus predicted. And in terms of this notation, it is E for residual equals the actual value of y, which I've done here as this, y minus predicted. So residual y hat. Oh, whoops. Oh, y hat is yellow. So let me do this equals y hat. There you go. Residual equals actual minus predicted. Okay, question 2. Can I play the video in there? With question 2, what are we doing? And Jake, thank you so much. Keep answering questions. Keep getting points. We can even do the Canvas content here. Okay, Jake. So this question says, a least squares regression model was calculated and we made this model. So, Jake, what is this value of negative 6.08? What is this value of 0.1841? What are those values? What are those values? What are these values? What is the negative 6.08? What is that value? What are those values? What does any of that mean? What are they telling me? What's going on? Why am I so tired? What do any of those values mean? Rutong's got it right there. Well, kind of Rutong. Weight hat is the predicted. But what is negative 6.08? So that is the predicted right there. What is negative 6.08? This is good knowledge for 320. What is negative 6.08? In notation or in words. Remember, we talk about y equals mx plus b. mx plus b. Well, what is the statistical notation or word for negative 6? That's the intercept, which is b0. So what is the next one in notation? That is the intercept, which is b0. Great job, Jake. Also points in the chat. What is the next one in notation? What's the next one in notation? So if that's b0, the next one would be what? Exactly. Rutong is on fire right there. Nice job, Rutong. More points. Y hat equals b0 plus b1x, which is the intercept plus the slope. Sure, slope. Now, it says we are trying to predict, or wants the residual, right? So what's the formula for residual? Just tell me again. I've already written it down. Basically, you're about to see over here. What is the formula for residual? What is the formula for residual? What is the formula for a residual? What is the formula for a residual? Observed minus predicted. Residual equals actual minus predicted. So where is the predicted in this right here? Where's the predicted? Where's the predicted value? We've almost got it. We're like so close to figuring this out. We're 2 steps away from the answer, I'd say, after this one. Well, that's not the predicted. That is the estimate of the intercept. Thank you, Jake. Good answers. So I do this right here because I want you to think, where's the predicted value? It is the equation. This solves to the predicted because that is the predicted. Does that make sense? So the predicted is, this stands for predicted weight. That's what that means. So how would we get the predicted weight of the baby? How would we take this equation and get a predicted weight? What would we do if the baby was 48 centimeters long and weighs 3 kilograms? How would we get a predicted weight? How would we use this equation right here to get a predicted weight if the baby was 48 centimeters long? What would we do? Nice job, Noah, right there. And which one do we input? Do we input both or just one? Well, think about how the equation solves. This is x, and we're predicting y. So we just input 48. So, exactly. Great job. And that's what I want people to see. Like, I want you to have those, oh, I get it. We're just inputting x to solve for predicted y. So tell me in notation, once I get this value right here, what value am I getting? I have solved for what? What value did I just get? Predicted weight. I was trying to do it in my head. So that is the predicted weight. Does everyone understand? That is the predicted weight. So what do we need to solve for residual now? So if we have predicted weight, so this is predicted weight is 2.7568, which is y hat. So what do we need to solve? What do we need to get the residual? The residual is 0.243. What do we need? What value am I missing? You are giving right answers. What value am I missing? So if you look at everything down here, this is us solving it by hand. So what value am I missing? The actual weight. So what's the actual weight of the baby? What's the actual weight? Which is, yeah, literally that right there. It's the actual. But what is it? What's the actual weight? 3. There you go. Mm-hmm. So the baby what? Since the residual is positive, the baby weighed more or less than predicted. Since the residual, which is E, which is what we're solving for, the baby's actual weight was more or less than predicted. It was more, If that makes sense, it's above the line. So the baby's weight is above the line. It's 2.2 whatever higher. So does that make sense, Jake? So the baby weighed this much more than predicted because it has a positive residual. Mm-hmm. And you can look at the numbers to be like the actual was higher than the predicted because the predicted was like 2.7 or whatever. Yeah, that's not bad, right? So that's just the equation of residual, and it's a quick question if you know how to do it, but I like to do the theory. Okay, question 3. If the correlation between two variables is positive, the slope of the linear model will be positive. So correlation tells us what? Tells us a D word. Correlation tells us the what? Correlation tells us what? It tells us strength, something, form, unusual features. Strength, something, form, unusual features. Review of the 4 things. I missed one on them. Strength, something, form, unusual features. Strength is the tightness around the form. The form is either linear or not linear. Unusual features is outliers. I didn't mention one of them, though. Correlation tells you what? Strength, Correlation tells you what? It tells you that. You can see the what of this. It tells you the direction. So if this has something like R equals 0.3, which is the correlation, if something has a positive correlation, it must go up. Yeah, so that's true. It must have a positive slope if the correlation is positive, yeah, because correlation tells you the direction of the line. Good stuff. Nice and easy one. Very, very easy, true or false. Really can't tell you more than that. Then correlation and slope tell you direction of a model. And correlation is meant for linear data, at least when doing Pearson correlation. We haven't done Spearman or things that go beyond yet, and we won't in 201. Disk drives have been getting larger. 1,000 terabytes equals 1 petabyte. 1,000 gigabytes equals 1 terabyte. That's what they told us. And so with this right here, let's take a look at the data. So we see a lot of things right here. Some of them we won't really use in our class. Correlation is down here on the bottom. That's going to be important. You've got high capacity drives going down here further with very, very expensive costs. You've got the mean of the Y. That's the average price of all the hard drives. You've got the mean of the X. That's the average storage of all the hard drives. You've got the standard deviation of X, which is very large compared to the mean, indicating right skew. Same thing going on right here. It's very right skewed data for both of them. We're more analyzing the bivariate relationship, though, that as capacity increases, you do see a much higher price. So let's see what they ask. Find the slope. Now, here's where you want to use jump. So to do this in jump, first open up jump right here. Now click inside of jump and go to File, New, Data Table. File, New, Data Table. Do not click inside of it. If you did, just X out of it. And then go to File, New, Data Table. There can be issues if you click inside before pasting the data. Now go to your data. Under your data, go and click the Copy button right here. Go Copy to Clipboard. Then hit Control-C or Command-C. Let's see that again. Click the little icon, copy to clipboard. Now hit Control-C or Command-C to copy the data. Now go back inside of Jump. Remember, you haven't clicked inside of it yet. Now hit Edit, Paste with column names. If you did not paste with column names, it won't work. On the left is an improper way. Close that out, redo it, and make sure to go paste with column names. There's a shortcut for it too, but edit paste with column names. Love shortcuts. Command C, and then watch out on the Command V though. You'll need to go, and so Rutong 1,000 points, great answers. If you just hit Command V, it won't work properly, and start over again because people will try to fix this. And actually, Control Z actually undid it, but you can paste with column names and it'll work. Notice that right now, these columns on the left are red, indicating categorical because the column name went into the first row. Where on the right, they're quantitative because that's how we'll do a regression with 2 quantitative variables, and Rutong's got it, paste with those column names. So now let's go ahead and take a look at how to analyze the data. We're going to go here to Analyze, Fit Y by X. Analyze, Fit Y by X. When we go to Analyze, Fit Y by X, we'd ask, why are hard drives so big? Well, maybe the capacity explains why hard drives are so big. So think of reading it as a sentence. Maybe capacity explains why hard drives have a certain price. I said so big first, but I meant to say price. Does capacity explain why they cost so much? Let's find out. You get a scatter plot to begin with, and if you didn't get a scatter plot, that's because you didn't have 2 quantitative variables. Rewind a little bit and get your 2 quantitative variables by pasting properly. But if you didn't get a scatter plot and you got a mosaic plot, you didn't put in 2 quantitative variables. So now you do notice a little bit of a nonlinear trend right here. Let's go ahead and fit the line to the data, and there it is. We now get the linear model, and you should know what the intercept is by looking at this. What's the intercept in the chat? Go ahead for 500 points. What is the intercept? Who knows what the intercept is? Might grab a snack right quick. Tell me what the intercept and the slope are. Try to do it. Intercept and slope. What's slope? Rutong's got it. Sorry. I'm so hungry. Now this is where it is a Nature Made. God loves some Nature Made. Shout out to Nature Made right here. It's a Nature Made granola bar or whatever it is. So good. Now I'm talking to myself. Not protein. Should have been. I've been good. But yeah. Slope. Try right now to interpret the slope in context. A little chill music. Slope interpreted in context. What does it say? Now, some people are probably fast-forwarding through the video. These are some of the most important questions. Oh, you're right, but can you do it in full context like it's a test question? Jake, some points right there. But what if it's a test question? You have to write it all out. What would you say? Newbot's got some hints right there. So, Jake, for the test, try doing it. What would be the full on the test interpretation? Like you have to get all 4 points. What would you do? We'll take another moment here. This is where people, like I always say this, like if you can't write it out, then even with Mewbot's hints, we want to practice up. So what would it be as a full sentence? That's probably their answer. They probably wrote that. But don't worry, good answers. But what's the full interpretation? Be the full. I'll answer it here in a moment. But look at what Mewbot's got written. For each additional 1 unit increase in X, we expect Y to increase or decrease by B1 on average. So what would that be? We have to plug in what X is. For each additional 1 unit increase in X, we expect Y to increase or decrease by, we say whatever it is, by this on average. So once again, just plug in the values. Try writing it out, plug in the values. For each additional 1 unit increase in, we expect blank to increase by this on average, because it's positive. Who's got it? 1,000 points on the line. Really good practice right here. Because on the test, people don't know what to write. They're like, I don't know what to write. And I'm like, no, you have to practice it. The more you practice it. Oh, man. I hope people are practicing this. I hope someone watching in the future is like, I got to write this down. Grab a sheet of paper now. Try writing it down. Does anyone got a guess? I'm on top chat still. Any guesses? I'll give 5,000 points for any guess. I'll give 5,000 points for even a guess in the chat. This is very important. There's 4 points on the test. All we have to do is plug in X, Y, and B1. You just got to take that structure right there, plug in X, plug in Y, and plug in B1 to maybe a decimal or two. 5,000 points for even a guess. And I'll tell you the answer. But I notice a lot of people sometimes get to the test and they say, I have no idea what to write. For each 1 unit increase in capacity, we express price to increase by 142.42 on average. Jake, you're on fire, man. I love that. So this is the additional price per terabyte. This indicates the additional price in dollars for each terabyte of capacity, which for each additional, yep. The intercept right here is the value when x is equal to 0. So what does that mean? Now use MuBot. And what does the intercept mean? What does the intercept mean? For another 5,000 points, these are very important questions. What does the intercept mean? And use MuBot's interpretation. Good afternoon. Yeah, drop a 320 question. I talked about the Kaggle at the start. You know, I was always making me cough. I talked about the Kaggle at the start. If you have questions on the Kaggle, that should do. So what does the intercept mean? Like, oh, thank you so much. Colin, 5,000 points for Colin appearing. Thank you so much. From Disney right here. I love it. What does the intercept mean? Well, you can read theirs, but use MuBots. Then we'll find the one that matches. What does the intercept mean? Well, the intercept is a value when x is equal to 0. The intercept is down there at negative 299 when x is equal to 0. And it's a prediction because the line makes predictions. So what does the intercept mean? Boom, Jake, you're on that. You get it. Do you get it, Jake? Like, does that even make sense though? When a hard drive has 0 capacity, we expect it to cost negative money. Does that make logical sense that a 0 capacity hard drive would cost negative money? That's ridiculous, right? There's no hard drives that have 0 capacity. What was the models you said? We talked about ARIMA. I'll type in the chat for you, Rutong. ARIMA. This is good things for 320 right here. ARIMA, seasonal, ARIMA, exponential smoothing. I misspelled that. Those are good starts. Check those out for 320 for the times for the challenge. Indicates the price for a hard drive that has no capacity. It's meaningless. Yeah. Write down the equation. There's that. And then we need the slope coefficient, 142.42. There we go. What would you predict for a 20 terabyte hard drive? How do we do this? How am I going to make predictions for a 20 terabyte hard drive? What am I going to do? I can about predict it. It's about $2,520. It's currently be owner. Oh yeah, I'll do that next, Alexandra. Hang out for a little bit. We'll do that. Yep. We'll finish this homework. We'll do that next, and then we might have time for the Canvas content. Thank you, Alexandra. We'll do that next year. We'll talk Spearman versus Pearson. Good stuff. So you plug 20 right here. So we plug in 20. Just solve the equation. And this gives predicted price of that hard drive. There it is. About what I said. I mean, it's got close enough by doing it. Round the nearest cent. Check answer. So now it says you find one that costs this. Now, what do you think? It costs what to predict it? Just look at it. Just don't even read their answers. It actually costs what to predict it? Yeah. I think yeah. We'll do it, Alexander. Good question. It's so well, the prediction is more, right? So is this a good price? Yes, because it costs less than predicted. This is what it actually costs. This is the prediction of the model. So it's a good price because it costs less than predicted. How much more or less would you be paying? All you have to do is subtract the numbers. So let's go here and subtract 2520. And we're finding the residual to figure out the difference between the actual and the predicted. So you would pay this much less than that. And this should have said the residual, but that's got it. Now, if the residual is negative, does the model over or underestimate? Jake, over or under? If the residual is negative, because the model predicted more, is the residual, did the model over or underestimate? A lot of people get this wrong. So here's the model. Did the model over or underestimate if the residual is negative? It overestimated. Don't worry, Jake, 1,000 points. This has a negative residual. So this point has a negative residual, and the predicted is above the actual. Does that make sense? So when the residual is negative, because our residual is negative, we're paying less than predicted. The predicted's up here. We are paying actually less than predicted. The model is overestimating because the model is higher. Does that make sense, Jake? The model is above it, so the model overestimates the price. The prediction was higher. So the model predicted higher, it overestimated. Yeah. A lot of people, that is the most common thing. Because people think negative, they think, well, it's under. The point is under the model. Mm-hmm. This question I hate. I think they're mad about the outlier, which like they did this different on a different chapter. I hate that question. I'm not even, there's the answer to it. The previous chapter talks about that data differently. They're talking about the one extreme point on the far end of the model, and you can even look at the fit of the model, and we can't even get a fit. I can run a fit another way, but they're talking about the extreme point, and I really don't like it because they're almost like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done this, and it's like, maybe you shouldn't ask me questions on it. I think it's a bad idea to do checks on the model last. We usually do checks on the model first. There is a bit of nonlinearity, and so you should probably fit like a polynomial model, which would have a much higher R squared, and there's the polynomial fit, which is better, and that fits the model better. That's a polynomial fit, which we don't cover in 201. But there are better answers. There's always a better answer. That's why we have more classes. We teach you more things. We teach you the basics, and then we improve, and even I learn new things. So, a few more questions. We're going to do 320, so hang out 320. We got this ready. Okay, question 5. The drive with a blank capacity contributes the most of the sums of the squared error. So here's the residuals. The largest residual would be the largest summed square error. So which of these would have the biggest error? What capacity would have the biggest squared error? Because it says the sum of the squared of the residuals. Yep. Boom. On fire. Answers right there. Yep. Because that's the biggest residual. Yep. Residuals, how much we missed by. A negative residual means what? Well, let me appear on the screen again. It'd mean that the point that it costs less than predicted. So negative residual means that it costs less because negative means below the model. So here's the model. Here's the point. And then we might have expected from this model and its capacity, its X variable. Like if it has this much capacity, because remember from the previous graphic, we're still working with the same data. So if it has this much capacity, I can't just put the fit back on. Change the color of line every time you make it. So since this has a negative residual right here, it costs less than predicted. Negative residual means below the line. So that point has a negative residual, like negative 300. You can just think how much it's below the line. Negative 300. And a residual of this indicates that the drive costs this much dollars less. Well, that's what it means. Good sentence. Only 2 more questions. Then 320 coming right up. Okay. Here we are. R squared. How do we find R squared mathematically? That'll answer this question. How do you find R squared mathematically? How do you get R squared mathematically? You want to know how to get R squared? What is R? Square R. Now here's a fun question. Are you ready? let's say the correlation of this data, or the r squared of it. If r squared of this data is 0.64, what is r? What is r? Who knows what r is? Who knows what r is? Jake, you're on fire. I can't even trick you. Gosh, nice. Yeah, Jake saw it. He saw the negative direction. I can't even trick you. So one of the questions, especially on the Canvas content, is when you're going from r squared to r, you square root it, and then you have to look at the direction. And then you can see here, if you square this, you get 0.64. So when you go to r squared from r, you just square it. So Sydney, yeah, good to see you here. Ask any questions when you get caught up. Let me know. So if you're hearing this right now or wherever, Matt, you can just drop questions anytime. I'll answer them and we'll put them on the list. So yeah, good to see you here. So we just take r, we square it, we get r squared. Now what you do usually is you multiply it by 100 to turn it into a percentage. And we go over here. We usually interpret it as the percent of variation in y explained by the variation in x. Mubot's got his words on the screen now. Blank percent of the variation in y is explained by the variation in x. So what percentage of the variation in number, the variation in sales, can be accounted for by a regression model of sales on people working? I hate that they have to make you think like, what is the x, what is the y? I mean, not what I'm trying to say. One decimal. All right. The way they say it's regressed, like you regress y on x. I never say that. I say blank percent of the variation in y is explained by the variation in x. It's very easy to remember. When you're trying to talk about something, you say, I'm trying to understand this variable, and maybe this other one explains it. So blank percent of the variation in the variable I want to understand, y, is explained by the variation in x. So you can see Mubot's put the notes in the chat. Blank percent of the variation in y is explained by the variation in x. Like, that's a written question on the test. If our data in a scatter plot is straight enough, we can say that our data, we can model our data with a what? I'm not even going to click that answer because you should know it. If it's straight enough, which is one of our conditions, QQ straight enough, no outliers, plot doesn't thicken, you can model your data with a what? QQ straight enough, no outliers, plot doesn't thicken. You can model your data with a what? Don't even click their answers. It's better if you don't click the answers and then you really know it. If your data is straight enough, you can model it with a what? Somebody clicked it. What can you model? You're saying it's straight enough. It's straight. It's what do we mean by straight enough? You look at it and you go, that data looks to be straight enough. Let's add a this to it. Linear. Yep. Is this data straight enough? Which is actually going into the next topic that Alexander was asking about. Is that data straight enough? Yes or no? Is that data straight enough? Is that data straight enough? No. Line. Model with a line. Nope. Nope. So what we do, and this breaks into, let's do 320 right here. Thank you, Alexander, for waiting. And let's do a little 320. And then, Jake, do you want to do like Canvas content? We can destroy Canvas content next. 30 minutes. You've already got homework done. Homework 7 done. A lot of people get stuck on it. So Spearman, Pearson versus Spearman. Okay. So we have two types of correlation that we use. I think there's a third type. I always forget what it's called, and I can't even remember why to use it. So, hey, I don't know it. That's fine. So when you have Pearson versus Spearman, you have to think why you would use each one. So let's go right here, and let's write down. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, let's do some of the quiz questions. We do that next. That's what I thought. I was like, I don't know that. Pearson. Spearman. Okay. For something to be Pearson, it must have what qualities or quality? I think it's actually 201, 207. So for something to be a good Pearson, Rutong's got it. It needs to be QQ, straight enough, no outliers, plot doesn't thicken. Literally got it right there. That's what Pearson is. What do we mean by this? We mean two quantitative variables that have a linear relationship that don't really have any extreme outliers, and plot doesn't thicken, which means it stays about the same thickness. So Spearman only has one real requirement. Spearman has one real requirement. Kind of, sort of. Well, so Spearman only requires one of those, though. Which one does Spearman require? Spearman only requires one. Not linear. Spearman works on nonlinear. Spearman must have one requirement. Not, well, yes, QQ. I got you good points for that, yeah. We still need two quantitative variables. Spearman can have crazy outliers. Spearman requires it's monotonic. So let's look at, so take these notes right here. These are the requirements. I guess you could write QQ. Here we'll put QQ as a global one for both of these. So here we'll do this. Like, if we do like a global two quantitative variables, and then we do monotonic. Okay. So I think this is, yeah. So I'll disappear. Take screenshots of this. This is like the requirements. So you have to have these things down here to meet the requirements for these. So if you don't have them, you can't do them. And we can look at examples. So you can't even do Pearson or Spearman unless you have two quantitative variables. And then to do Pearson, it must have these following things right here. So what do? You think about a plot and you think about it. So let's analyze. Let's go right here and let's analyze like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and let's analyze like GPAs or something. Like people, your GPA goes a little lower because you take those harder classes. So what should we use here? Pearson or Spearman? What do you think? So we're analyzing GPA by class level. So we got GPA by class level. What do you think we should use? Well, we got your submission in, right, Rutong? I can go over to that next if you want. What should we use here, Pearson or Spearman? So do the steps up above. Do the steps up above, and should we use Pearson or Spearman? Boom! 1,000 points right there. You got it. It was a trick question. Sorry, I started out a little mean. You were right, and I think you know why. It's because we don't have two quantitative variables. Because class level, this is side-by-side box plots, which is the visualization of a categorical X and a quantitative Y. Good job on the trick question. Don't worry if you didn't get it. It would have been totally fine. But you got the trick question right there. So now let's look at another one, which I promise it will be one of the two answers this time. I was going to make it not again, but I'm like, okay, let me do it. Ah! Great job, Alexander, right there. Great answer. This is like money and, I don't know, GPA. Like somebody's money and their GPA. Both are quantitative, hence a scatter plot. So what do you think? So you go in, and what's the first thing you should look at? How would you analyze straight enough? It is Spearman. So what you do is to figure out straight enough, you go to the center of the data at different points, and you just plot through it. So you can see it has a bend. Does that make sense? This data has a bend. So because it's not straight enough, that's got it. Is it monotonic? It goes in one direction. So it doesn't really have any outliers. Plot's not thickening. We're good. But because it fails straight enough, we're going over to Spearman. Spearman's the easier one to pass because Spearman only has one requirement. So I don't really need to name the variables right now. I can just do an X. Like I just do a scatter plot, I meant to say. Okay, which one should I use now? The answer's not changing, even though I'm making it have more characteristics. Neither. Why neither? Ah! Brian makes random noises. The office hours. The movie. There we go. Why neither? Rutong said it, and so did Alexander right there. It's non-monotonic. So it's non-monotonic, which means it's non-linear. Yeah, it's also heteroscedastic, which is not a big deal. So it's got plot thickening, and we get through outliers or whatever, but non-monotonic. If it's non-monotonic, then you use polynomial regression or polynomial models, which actually I just did over in 201. I did that over here on this data. I fit the polynomial model, which just fits a polynomial trend. So you can literally do that just using the quadratic equation go to fit polynomials. So there are ways. It's just you don't use Pearson or Spearman. You can just fit a polynomial model. So there are ways. How about the next one? Okay. What would you use here? And then also give the answer why. For straighten up, you look to see if a line goes through the center of the data. And then if it's linear, it's also monotonic. Rutong said it right there. It's going to be Spearman, and you are correct, Alexander. It is Spearman because it's heteroscedastic. The heteroscedasticity is failing plot doesn't thicken, where the model is getting weaker. And so it's heteroscedasticity. I think it's pretty close. Heteroscedastic. I think it's an A. If you just throw an A between the SCA, heteroscedastic. So it's heteroscedastic. Nope. Oh, let me rewind time. It's easier. Last one right here. Okay, now what do you do? What would you do? I wouldn't say this is a trend. I think it's another thing. I think I can go like this and go like, yeah, look at that. That's cool. One that threw me off was a graph filled with points throughout the graph on a pre-class assignment, but after getting it wrong, it was one of the two. Oh, I don't know. Maybe send me a picture of that or ask the instructor. Good questions. Good questions. What would we do? It's outlier. It's monotonic. Goes in one direction. So this would be a Spearman. So really good stuff. That place we have it down in the, you can get like the tiki masala. I'm craving it now. Just craving it. Oh man, what questions are there? Jake, should we do the Canvas content? What should we do? Got up a little early today. It's lost in loads of something. Okay. I'm so tired today. Just so tired. Something in, when is this? Awesome. Helping out with something. Another 320 question. Yeah, no, we don't have anything in the queue. Yeah, we gotta do some chapter. Let's do one more 320 and we'll hop back to 201. What do you want to do on 320? And then we'll do 207, 201. What do you want to do on 320, Alexander? Did I play a lot of games this weekend? Played a little bit. Played a little Binding of Isaac. Binding of Isaac, good game. I didn't win this morning though. I came in second. Gotta do better. I got up early. Like sometimes you get up in the morning, you're just like can't go back to sleep, and you're like, yeah, no, that's fine. We're just chilling out. I've got 207, 201 ready to go. Let me think of another thing in here. So if you're reviewing, here's my suggestion. Let me pull up R really quick. I'm going to give some suggestions. So this is what I would be doing if you're in any class that's at our university and doing 320. So I'll put this in the notes, like 320 midterm advice. BS 320 midterm advice. Okay. So first off, whatever your instructor sends you, use that. Your instructor sends you something, go over what they send to you, ask your instructor questions, ask them how the test is done, look at the practice test they send out, do that. What I usually do, and this is for my class, is I always say look at output. Because if you look at the association function, you can work the association function a lot of ways with y tilde x comma data equals. So if we go here to the weight of a car, explained by the miles per gallon, where the data equals the MTG cars, MT cars, motor trends cars. You can see right here, we get a scatter plot with side-by-side histograms, not important, or border histograms. What's more important is knowing the correlation, the p-values, the permutation procedure. Also, what you'll see right here is, I wonder if we do this. If we go here, I've never tried this. Factor, and let's go CYL. Ooh, it worked. Oh, look at Brian learning things from seeing ChatGPT do things. You need to know how to analyze side-by-side box plots right there. All these different things right there. Very important. We'll throw one more in. You know how to do, I think it's automatic manual. There we go. Wow, look at that. I see some differences. Yeah, you can kind of do that. These are kind of categorical because, like, how many cylinders a car has is a category-ish. It can be quantified. The AM. I usually, so ask your instructor. I'm not a big fan of transformations. Your instructor might have you do something. It depends on the instructor, but you should definitely know this graphic above my head is called a what? What is this graphic above my head called? What is that graphic above my head called? That graphic above my head is called a what? Up there, that's called a what? What is that called? Down here on the bottom. It's a mosaic plot. The analysis of two categorical variables with the contingency table over here on the left telling you the counts of the observations. So you should know how to read a contingency table. You should know how to read a mosaic plot. You should know the permutation procedure, which leads to a p-value when we look at our discrepancy over here, which is a discrepancy of 8.7, which has a p-value, which is the amount of permutations that are as extreme or more extreme of 0.008. You should know that this is a conclusive interval for the p-value because it does not contain 0.05. So there's a lot to say, and a lot of it really boils down to knowing this output. Knowing that this output right here is used to analyze means or medians. Mostly we can do mean ranks, but we mainly do means or medians. And why? I see something. Why would we analyze medians? And then we'll hop over to 207 back again here in a second. Why in this output? And this is a decent 207 question. Why would we analyze medians? Why would we analyze medians? Why would the comparison metric be between these groups be medians? Why would it be medians? 207 can also answer this. And where do you see it on line 1, line 2, line 3, or line 4? Where's the skew that would indicate to you to use medians? Is it which line has that information best presented? A lot of people get this wrong. Good guess. Good guess. A lot of people say that. 1,000 points. It's not line 4. Good guess. Another 1,000 points. Where is it? It's not line 4. The best line for it is line 3. The normal probability plots. Because this is the line that indicates normality, and the points follow it there, and the points mostly follow it there. And then over here, so Jake, we said that we tricked you. I'm going to throw you another 1,000 points. This is the permutation procedure to get the p-value. This is the permutation procedure, which these are the permutations, which we have not mentioned in your class at all. Yeah, it is number 3. That is the right answer. Yep. This is the right answer to why are we using medians to compare them. It's because this is not normal over here. It has extreme outliers, which can also be viewed right there and right there, the outliers. They show up in all 3 spots right there. So due to the right skew, we should compare the medians between the groups. And then the difference between the medians is statistically significant. When you look at the median, we're analyzing weight of cars. So they differ by like a half. This differs by a ton right there. So cars with 6 cylinders have a median weight that is 1 ton, pretty much heavier, where cars that go from 6 to 8 cylinders, it's not as big of a jump, but they have a median weight that is a half ton bigger. So my advice is to know this output, to know how to read it, to understand what every line shows you. The side-by-side box plots let us see the 5-number summary for each group, and we also get the means in there. You can see a right skew to this data due to the right skew, due to the high. It is what it is, right? Here's the histograms also indicating some right skew, a little bit of bimodality here. Here is the normal probability plots, indicating that the last plot is our worst when it comes to normality. Here's the random permutations on the bottom, showing us what is likely by random chance, small discrepancies. Here's our discrepancy. All of our discrepancies are much larger than what would be expected by random chance, leading to large discrepancy values, and large discrepancy values lead to low p-values. All of the intervals are statistically significant because 0.05 is, or are conclusive because 0.05 is not contained within them. And there's all the means, there's all the mean ranks, and there's all the medians for each group. There you go. Does that make sense, Alexander? I know I went a little bit quickly, but know the output. That's always my big suggestion to people is know the output. So 30 minutes till class time. But good job. I know it's a lot to know, but the more output you can make and analyze, the better you are. And then if you can explain it to people, that's really good. That's our goal. Alexander, which question from 207 do we want to do? And we could even use R to do it. If you want, we could do a 201, 207 question in R. Basically code it. Yeah, know the concepts. Know how to explain it. What is this? I'm going to block them. I blocked so many publishers. Because they're all like, hey, you want to buy this? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good, man. Lab burst. Let's do it. Ah, there it was. Okay, so I should show how to do it in R, right? I know there, Alexander's 320. I can show you how to do this in R because the way this works is if you look at this, let's go ahead and copy this data right here. Copy, let me mark it in the notes first before we do a question and not have it marked. So, and chapter 7 quiz. We're going to try to do this better in R, and because Jake, you should have R, I believe. And we're going to show how R can do this better than jump. So we're going to go here to copy to clipboard. And then we're going to copy. It's going to look interesting. Oh, no, I lost it. You know what you could do? Watch this. Grab this data right here. Now let's go to ChatGPT. And on ChatGPT, and let's say, take this data and vectorize it for R. Man, I tell you, you can do so much so quickly. There we go. Okay, there we go. There's that. I can do this myself too, but watch this. Subtract from the year 1900 and give the new vectors. Make the linear model for me and use advanced graphing packages to make it beautiful. Okay. Because they take off 1900 from the series. And so we gave it the data. It's using ggplot2. It's making a linear model predicting the rate from the year. Did it subtract 100 from the series? 1900 it did. Yeah, there it is. Okay, let's copy the data. Let's go here to R. And let's paste in the code. Let's run the code. And there's the data. There it is. No, it's just GPT. It's just normal, right? It's just the generic version everyone has, and there it is. There is the linear model. And what's even better is we can go right here, and we can store this into an object. We're going to store it into object P, and then we're going to go library Plotly. If 201, if you want to learn how to do this, I will tell you how to do it too. You just need to download RStudio, and then you can just do all these things right here, and you can be like, okay, let me make this graphic right here. There we go. So what do you think, Jake? We have now made a model where you can zoom in on everything and see the points and see where things are there. And yeah, there's the model. There is the full linear model right there. This is what they want us to see. Look at the points. And let's go check it out right here. Here's the data, and it looks like it's probably this one right here. There's the answer to the first question. Okay, describe the trend. It's mostly going down. It's been decreasing over time. Find the equation. So this is where, and so 320 would have to know this too. How am I going to get an equation from this model? The model's been stored into the object. It's been stored into model. I usually call it M, but they've called their model, which I usually call it M. How am I going to get my model's equation? How would I get my model's equation? How would I do that? And don't worry if you don't know, you can just say you don't know, and I'll say the answer. It's not that complicated. Awesome, you're welcome. Yeah, just swing by. I don't know where your exam is. We need the slope and the intercept. You're right, and we can get that via summary. So we go right here and we just write summary of the model object, and there's the slope and the intercept right there. -1141. Okay, so the intercept is this, and the slope is -114. There's Raheel. We should be right. Check answer. Oh, we can't. Is the model appropriate? Yeah, swing by any office hours and just ask questions. I'll make some time. Come early. I'll make some time. Tomorrow, office hours are earlier. They're at like 11 or so. Is it appropriate? Yes, because it's mainly straight enough. There's no outliers. QQ straight enough, no outliers. Interpret the slope. The slope is going to be for each additional year since 1900. We expect the birth rate to decrease by a certain amount. So for the slope would be the number in births per 1,000 has been changing by an amount equal to the slope per year on average. The table gives rates only at intervals. Estimate what the rate was in 1978. So I can do this. The code is not that complicated to do it with our code over here. You could also ask ChatGPT to do it. The code is simply going to be dataframe $.dataframe, and then it's going to be, we're using year equals 78, and then predict, and then we use the model to predict on new data equals df, and there it is right there. There's the predicted rate, and I think they might want it in thousands. We could have asked ChatGPT to do this also and say use it to predictions. That looks about right. If you look at where it's at in 1978, it's looks a little off. No, because it's going down. Okay, that's an outlier. Okay, yeah, that looks right. And then it wants to 1 decimal. So it looks right. Hopefully we don't make any mistakes. It was actually 15. So this is what? The prediction is water. So Jake, work with me on this. The prediction is water right now. It's water to the actual. The prediction is water. So this is the prediction. It's what to the actual. The prediction is water. It's higher. So the residual is positive or negative. If the prediction is higher, remember we got a negative line, the prediction is higher, the residual is positive or negative. So which one is it? If the prediction is higher, then the residual must be water. Negative or positive? It's lower. The actual's lower, and so it'd be a negative residual. So, and birth rate was this. How close did the model come? The model predicted this many more. So the model predicted higher by 1.7, which is a negative residual because the model's higher than the predicted. The model's higher than the actual. This is the predicted. This is the actual. The birth rate in 2020 hasn't been figured out yet. So how could I adjust my code, Jake, to make it predict for 2020? How could I adjust my code and make it predict for 2020? What line of code and what would I change to make it predict for 2020? What line of code? Year equals, yep. And then we put in 120. You have to subtract 1900 off of it. And there it is. Yep, you got it. And what you could do is you could just go here to this and just go round to 1 decimal. That way you don't have to worry about rounding. Just do that. I know I could just round it myself, but why not let the computer do it? There we go, right there. Do we have faith in this prediction? Yeah, it's 5 years in the future. That's a small extrapolation. There's some faith because it's not very large extrapolating. Extrapolation is when you go far out on the model and you make predictions extremely out in the future, like going 45 years in the future. And now we get the prediction right here. And this is a much larger extrapolation. So this would be a very large extrapolation. And because it's so far out in the future, we're extrapolating the model well far out. I look at the Kaggle score with a nice job. That's what I would think right there. I got 100. I got a little worried. Yeah, and this all can be done inside of Jump. If you watch this and you got completely lost, you'd want to go over here to Jump. I think Tab works best inside of Jump. And when you copy this into Jump, You go right here, you copy the data into jump with edit, paste with column names. Make sure to paste with column names. Analyze, fit y by x. You're using the year. You go here to this column, you right click after making it and go to formula, take the year, subtract off 1900, and then you apply OK. You call this actual year, whatever you want to call it. Then you go to analyze, fit y by x. You use the actual year we're going to use to predict the rate. You drop in the linear model. And then I'll do this slower if someone else has questions. Your model can now make predictions. This is kind of a neat feature in Jump, is you can go here to save predicteds. So if you go to save predicteds right here, it'll save the predictions. And then you can go right here and go 2020 and go 2050. Of course, we could have also just taken the model right here and used the model to make predictions. Does that make sense, Jake? Like we could have just plugged in 120 right there and mathematically solved the answer. So like if we had done this right here with 120 in there, we would have got 11.9. Like that would have, we could have just plugged in, which is kind of what they probably want you to do, because they want you to go back to the model you created and just plug in 120 right there. Does that make sense? Like you don't actually have to use software for a lot of this. Like once you get the model, you can just plug 120 in, because that's all that's going on with this code. This code right here is just plugging 150 in and making predictions. So it's, yeah, it's pretty neat. I wonder if, so here's the thing, watch this. I wonder if, it's just so crazy what ChatGPT can do. It's kind of scary. Here is the question in full. Write a full R script to solve it all, and then have it return a list of answers with explanation to solve of the theory. Pretty interesting. Oh, there's the equations. Yeah, there's the equations. There's the predictions. Oh, that's an interesting way of doing it. There's all the predictions, predicting for 1978, 2020, and 2050. Calculate the difference. There it is. Calculate the residuals. Generate answers. It's crazy. Code is, or ChatGPT is nuts. So here we go. Go through here and run the code. Did I do it? I think I did it. There's that. There's the model. There's the coefficients. So you got to take a look at the coefficients, though. There's the intercept coefficient. I'd even round it to 2 decimals. Ooh, that's got a little bit of a different rounding right there. Let me get that summary of the model again. Oh. Huh. That's weird. And then there's the residual. Should have called it a residual. And the answers is a list. And so here we go. Oh, it said there's no faith. Look at that. It got that wrong. It's 5 units over. So ChatGPT would have got that one wrong. It would have got something wrong. Yeah. If we make a time series model to predict 5 years in the future, when did it go from? Yeah, roller coasters. Small. Boom. It literally said that. Do you see your contradiction? Mm-hmm. See, look at this. This is why you got to watch out. Please note this. What am I pointing out right here? I just told ChatGPT to think whatever I want to think. I have no words. I have no words. You got to watch out with ChatGPT. It's almost like it can tell you things that are wrong every once in a while. Interesting world we live in. Interesting world. Roller coaster data. Roller coaster data. Oh, there it is. 91. We'll end on this one. I might be able to have time to grab a snack. Do you want me to do it in jump or R? Actually, this one we don't need jump or R for. We can just solve this one as is. This will be a quick one. I might grab a snack. Stat 201/207. Chapter 7 quiz. A data set on 91 roller coasters. Okay. What are the variables in the regression? The predictor variable is how fast the roller coaster is going, I think. The time, how long it takes. But the predictor is the X. That's the explanatory. I prefer we say the predictor is the explanatory, which is going to be the drop, which is in units of feet. The response is what we like to talk about, the Y variable of interest. The one we talk about is the response, which is going to be the duration, which is in seconds. What does the slope has? It would be for each additional foot drop, we would get this many more length of ride. So it'd be seconds we get per foot of drop. So the additional seconds in length of ride per foot drop. So rides with bigger, if you think about the way a roller coaster works, which of these roller coasters, A or B, is going to give you a longer ride? Wait, yeah, sure. Which of these roller coasters, A or B, are going to give you a longer ride? Sorry. Which of these roller coasters right here are going to give you a longer ride? Yeah, I know. Sorry, I hadn't finished the drawings yet. A looks to have a bigger drop, which is going to give you more momentum, which is going to sustain itself longer. Because usually roller coasters like give you that drop, and then they like they bring you back out and pull you up the tracks to the top again, and then they drop you and they use that momentum. So this one's gonna be a lot shorter ride. It's gonna wee, but this one's gonna be like wow, longer ride. So it's probably gonna have a positive slope because if there's a bigger drop, you get a longer ride. Coasters with bigger drops probably provide longer rides. Probably got it right. There we go. Yeah, which you would see like math or visually if you have a graphic, it'd be when they have a bigger drop, you would see a longer duration. Like the duration is gonna be longer. Does that make sense there, Jake? And that's got it. Might have enough time to grab a quick snack. With that, bye for now, everyone. Bye.